Thanks for coming along, for those that have. When we go to a lot of these industry chats, I get bored and usually the first one to walk out because everyone just discusses stats and it's the same stats over and over. The amount of times we've heard 85%, 85%, and no one ever really looks at what we can do at the facilities and what we can take away from it and what we can go away and implement. So ideally, I want these three to tell us that today. Not me, I haven't got the answers, but they might. Just to really quickly kick us off, there are 1.5 million, roughly, active users of GLP-1 at the moment in the country. About 9 million prescriptions a year. And the crazy part of that is about 90 to 95% of them are private prescriptions, not through the NHS. So we see this as a big opportunity, but that's down to them to tell you again. So I will quickly move on, because no one wants to hear me. They want to hear these lot. And do you want to introduce yourselves?
Well, first of all, I'll introduce you. This is Lewis, everyone. I'm Lauren. I'm from Oldham Active. I'm the head of health and wellbeing there. And today I'll be able to bring it from a community, kind of public gym's perspective, as well as the private side as well.
Tanya from eGym. My role today for you guys especially is probably telling you around the journey. I've been on the medication myself for about 20 months and then coming at it from a strength and exercise point of view as well.
And I'm John, gym owner. Again, I'll give you my experience on the journey. I also sit on the UK Active Independent Gym Owners Council as well, and obviously doing some work towards GLP-1s and its delivery into the fitness community.
Brilliant. And John, if we start with you, obviously you're on GLP-1, like you said. I think what we want to know is, what does the journey look like for a user on GLP-1 medication, and how might their experience maybe differ in a facility?
Okay, so I played semi-pro rugby to quite a reasonable level, and I played in the front row, so I was a big guy, had to be big for my sport. Then I came out of the military, and then I set up my own gym and stuff like that, and I carried on eating at the same rate I was when I was playing semi-pro rugby. So I was eating a lot of calories, but probably my activity levels were going down. And I always find it funny when gym owners or gym people go, oh, you've got to have strength of character, you know, it's just about determination and all of that sort of stuff. But they've never been fat or big. But they're quite happy to whack steroids and other things and that into their bodies and do all sorts of other stuff. But they've never been fat or big or had this really big appetite that you've been doing I've literally been doing it for 30 years. So me and Rob Handy actually have been fighting this battle for a couple of years, trying different things to lose weight, and we couldn't. So we're like, oh, we heard about this GLP-1 product, and we're like, right, let's do it. Let's see what it's like. Let's see where it takes us and how it works. So me and Rob have been doing it for the last, 7-8 months now. I'm 30 kilos down from where I was. I plan on losing another 2.5 stone. That'll have taken me from 24 stone down to 17. So I was a big guy. And it has been life-changing for me. I don't no longer have that voice in my head going, eat, constantly. And the problem is, when you're big and when you eat to make yourself feel good. So it lasts for about 45 minutes. It wears off, so you feel shit. So what do? You eat again. You feel good for 45 minutes. It wears off. You have about 10 minutes of going, and then you go, oh, I'll go in the fridge. I'll have some more food. And it's a continual, but fit people or those that are slim don't know that journey. They've never been on it, so they don't understand it. But for the bigger people amongst us that have done this, it is a battle. And I've never taken drugs as in, Class A or Class B or Class C drugs. And I've never gambled. They're not my things. I've got the strength of character not to do that. But I haven't got the strength of character to say no to a Mars bar or other things. So, and what the drug did for me, it just turned off that voice. And I went from wanting food to never wanting food. I just never, I could walk around all day and I would never desire food. It's the most surreal feeling that you can ever come across. So I went from 5,500 calories a day to 2,000, and those 2,000 had to be force fed. You know, I had to physically sit myself down and make myself eat. And then when I did eat, you just can't eat the same amount. You sat there and you're full on something that you'd have munched in about 3 seconds. So it's really hard to get that and then change your behaviour and all of those kind of things and get the right stuff in. So that's what it's done for me, and there are other things along the way as well.
So the Verve were lying when they said the drugs don't work, because they do, mate. But how do the medication influence a person's relationship with food, movement, motivation? Tanya, if you want to jump in with this one.
I mean, you put it really well. We talk about food noise. Suddenly it is not there. One of the things that we talk about life-changing, and you talk about it in a really positive way. The drugs work. There's another Verve one. There you go. Chuck that in. But they made me worse. There you go, continue the Verve statement for you. They do exactly what they say in the tin. You lose weight on them. But what people aren't taking into consideration is how you feel whilst you're taking them. If you manage to consume 2,000 calories, that's amazing. I have days when I probably do 500, and that's not great. And what that leads to are symptoms of fatigue, hair loss, insomnia. I mean, I could go on and on and on. So have I lost weight? Yes, I've lost 6.5 stone. Woo, drugs work. Do I feel like shit 24/7? Yes, cool. The last thing I'm doing is considering what I need to do from an exercise point of view. Yet, on my journey over 20 months, I've lost 28% muscle mass. So people that can do it and know they've got to train with it, that's amazing. But one of the biggest things for me is that the drug isn't teaching you habits. It's just shutting off something in your brain that tells you you don't want it. The second you stop taking that medication, or you're a few days late in taking that medication, instantly, all you start thinking about is cupcakes. It's not training me in any way, shape or form. It is completely shutting off my mindset to even consider it. And my worry with it is we have to manage people's expectation around what comes after that from a behaviour change point of view. Because if we don't get them to make that behaviour change and build habit around it, everyone will stop taking this medication, balloon back up, and then just go and get the medication again. So we have to stop that cycle in the same way that we yo-yo diet over years and years and years. We lose a stone, we gain 1.5 stones. We lose 2 stones. That's just what happens. I don't think, and I think my concern with this drug is we don't want to be stuck in a society where that becomes the habitual trend, where we buy it because we want to get the bikini body. That just doesn't feel right to me. So I went off on a rant. I can't remember your question, but I probably covered it somewhere, right?
You said something about cupcakes and...
Lost you at that point.
It used to be good, though, when Tanya was at events and you never ate anything, so you just got 2 meals if you sat next to her at an industry event, which was always great. So, Lauren, are we likely to see changes in exercise behaviour and commitment amongst GLP-1 users from your experience at Oldham?
Yes and no. I think it's a bit of a double-edged sword. So, like Tanya's quite rightly expressed that the last thing she wants to do is exercise, and you've not exercised really, have you? I'm not trying to call you out over the last 20 months. So, the injection, is helping her lose weight, but the mindset isn't shifting, the mindset isn't changing. Where I see the change in the community leisure side where I work, where we're now enabling people to be referred into the programs that we offer, they have to come and get that wraparound support. They have to attend their appointments as part of the NHS prescription they've been given to be on this medication. So they have to be on it to retain as much muscle mass as possible, to eat, like Tanya said, to really educate them around healthy habits, long-term sustainable behaviour change, which isn't really an option. And with the NHS rollout, which is what we will see over the coming years, at the moment, the current NHS rollout is you have to have a BMI of 40 plus 4 comorbidities. But over the coming years, that's going to drop to 35. It will drop to 30. And when we see that, those people that are eligible for the NHS prescription, that don't have to pay for it, the people that, are less well off, the people that can't afford it, you know, those will be the people that will be coming through our front doors that need that wraparound support. So that's the NHS side of it. However, where you guys are in a lot of the independent gyms, in that space, most of the people will be in that 90-95% that Lewis mentioned. They'll be buying it privately, and that's a really, really good opportunity for you to put on some wraparound support. And really, for me, it'd be thinking about how can we get new members in, because the majority of the members you'll have won't be using it. A percentage of them will. But the percentage of people that are out there buying it privately, still not going to the gym, still not coming through the front door, is we need to access those people, because for a lot of them, unless we market it in the right way, unless we can get them through our front doors, why would their behaviour change? Because what we hear a lot, and you'll have heard it a lot, is when I'm 2 sizes smaller, when I get the new job, when this, when that, when the other. They think that once they've lost a little bit of weight, they will start eating better, they will start going to the gym. And lo and behold, the long-term behaviour change doesn't happen, and they don't. So yes, I do think, in answer to the question, that we could see an increase in exercise in GLP-1 users, but we've got to do the work, we've got to be smart.
Brilliant. And you're quite far ahead. If anyone's worked with Lauren and knows it, you were one of the early adapters to look at change, and we worked with you slowly on some of the bits, and you jumped straight in there. What was it that really triggered you when you were working? What really triggered you to realise that this wasn't just a media thing, you needed to address it, and the industry needed to address it? And how did you go about that?
With kind of health things, given the job that I'm in, I tend to follow things very closely, kind of before it hits the front page. So I was following that journey as it was anyway. And then what we started to see, word of mouth throughout the community, that people were buying it on the black market. Half of the staff at Asda have got it from Asda Pharmacy. And then we were actually part of a government pilot providing health checks in the community. When we were going out doing these health checks, it suddenly got to a point where the health checkers were coming back into me and saying, Lauren, when we're taking their blood, does the fact they're on the injection impact their results? Does it impact their cholesterol, their blood sugars, so on and so forth? And it's really, really remarkable. Well, remarkable is probably not the right word, alarming maybe, how many people were on it, and I hear it all the time. They're still not going to the gym. They're still not making any behaviour change. What you hear most of is, oh, I've not eaten all day. I've forgotten to eat. People are going to lose muscle mass. They're going to lose bone density. They're going to be losing their hair. They don't have the energy to work out. We're going to get to a place, hopefully, where the wraparound support is absolutely mandatory, which it will be with the NHS prescriptions, where we can help people. But it was when that kind of, all that noise kept coming back to me, I thought, right, we need to get ahead of the game. We've got 30 members of staff here, we can educate. Where I work at Oldham Active, we have GP referral programs and things like that. So I've tweaked our offer, and I think that's really key. If you do have any kind of offer, is I've not reinvented the wheel. I've tweaked our offer to enable us to now accept referrals from GPs for people that are on GLP-1 medication.
Brilliant. I think when we talk about the wraparound as well, we hear it a lot where people say there's going to be wraparound offered, so they think that people are going to come to us and we're the ideal industry. We're a long way off it, and we're probably 3 years away from the NHS actually really rolling out any significant wraparound. They are a long way off the scheme. And as we said at the start, 90 to 95% of these GLP-1 users, they're not going through the right routes anyway. They are self-prescribing. And
they've got money. It's that, or they're not eating. I hear that a lot. Well, I don't need to spend as much on food anymore because I'm not eating. Tanya's not. You're both nodding. That's good. But really, if they're going to pay for that, they'd hopefully pay for the wraparound care. I know this sounds a bit extreme, but I hope in years to come, just like on the back of cigarette packets, it'll have a bit more of a trigger warning of muscle mass loss, of bone loss, of all the kind of impact that it can have. The longer that it's out, the more of the effects that we'll see, and it'll scare people into making sure they do that wraparound.
And I suppose, John, sorry, just to jump in really quickly,
yeah.
From a user's perspective, as a not take out GP out of the way, so you're talking self-prescribe, and you're talking about non-users that don't use your facility at the moment, how do you deal with them, or what are you putting in place at your facility to deal with that?
Right, so we're in the process of setting up a GLP-1 membership. which will, because I go back to when I started taking it, I couldn't have done exercise. When I first started taking it, go from 5,500 calories to 2,500. I just didn't have the energy. My energy output to live was far higher than I was taking as it was. So I didn't have the energy to do anything. So I would be doing, 10 minutes hard graft and then having to sit down for an hour. So I couldn't have gone in the gym and lifted weights or stuff like that. So what I resorted to was putting walking, it was steps. It was low level walking, get my 10,000 plus steps in a day, making sure I ate my stuff, hydrated properly. And so our intention is we're going to put a GLP-1 membership in place, and we're going to obviously scan everybody on the scanner. So at the very beginning, hopefully catch them at the beginning journey, so we've got their lean muscle mass. So we record that, and then we'll do it every month thereafter, so we can track their lean muscle mass and their loss or their gain. I mean, I was quite lucky. I had 97.5 kilos of lean muscle mass before I started, which is quite high. Yeah, that's more than most people weigh. But I was a 154 kilo man, in the same token. So I could afford, because you can lose up to they recommend about 40% of lean muscle mass or more, but it can be as low as 10%. So I was in that comfortable position where I could afford to lose some muscle mass as well as lose a bit of weight as well, so which I was willing to accept. So we will measure everybody, do a full body analysis. We'll then hopefully get them to have a wearable tracker, so get them to walk, and then gradually transfer them over to eGym, which is something we're in the process of discussing, and take on strength training, because obviously using lean muscle mass, we want to maintain lean muscle mass, and we want to do that by strength training and stuff like that. So that's what we're looking at doing. And then on top of that, what we're going to do is every Sunday for an hour, we're going to meet up, have a coffee and a chat and do some education and go on about behavioural support, where we talk about food, what the drug does, how it works, and then talk about what you need to take, whether you need to drink more, because it also turns off your hydration, doesn't it? So you don't want to drink either, but you've got to keep up your hydration status as well. And then obviously, if you're losing lean muscle mass, you want to try and get as much protein into your diet as possible, and those kind of things, and all sorts of, and just add some advice. But also, it's a dirty word in our society, and people don't want to talk about it. They don't want to admit to people that they're taking GLP-1s, because people look at them and go, oh, you got no willpower, you're cheating. Well, it's not cheating. We've been saying for 50 years, if we could invent a drug that could get weight loss, we'd give it to everybody now.
Can I just add something in there about the cheating? So what I would say, when we've upskilled our 30 majority fitness instructors and PT, a few of them wellness coaches as well, is the education there is really, really important, because a lot of our team, they just think you're lazy. A lot of fitness instructors are young, uneducated in that respect. They don't know that, Karen's going through the menopause and it's almost impossible for her to lose weight, or people have got different health conditions that impact them, or emotional eating, or, it's been their crutch, or whatever their reason might be. A lot of our younger fitness instructors and PTs, in my experience, they don't have that full understanding. So when we did our training, it's going to sound like a sales pitch, because we did it with Future Fit, but when we did the training with Future Fit, it was really, really helpful. A lot of the instructors took so much away from it, and it helped break down judgment, and it helped break down those barriers, and helped them to see that they need to be a bit more emotionally aware and intelligent when dealing with these people.
And one of the reasons for me leading the GLP-1 at our place, and we're calling it next steps, because what are the next steps? Where do you go with this? And the reason I'm doing it is because I've done the drug. So I can stand there in front of these people and know exactly what they're going through, what they're experiencing, and they can have that connection with me, rather than some young fit person that's never been through weight gain, never been through the menopause and stuff like that. I can actually stand there and go, I know what you're going through. I know what it is. No, male menopause, sorry, grumpy old man syndrome. All right?
Tanya, this isn't one of the questions we prepared for, so just going to throw this at you. The mental health side always comes up in this, and we've talked about it before, and it was sort of touched on there. So how do we prepare for that, or how have you worked with any operator that is working in the right way to prepare for that, and what would you suggest?
Do you want mental health or do you want the psychological effects? Because I think they go hand in hand, right? I think one of the biggest things that doesn't happen, especially through private prescriptions, which is where 95% are currently coming from, is how different your life becomes when you lose a significant amount of weight. Down to people look at you differently in the street, people open car doors for you. It's mad. It is really crazy small stuff. And because you lose it so quickly, you don't have a moment in your brain to actually catch up with that in a moment. So I will, for example, still look in the mirror and see exactly the same person that I was 6 stone heavier. Visually, I feel like I look exactly the same. Now, I know I'm not because I'm buying a lot smaller clothes and I know that everyone's like, oh, hey, you look well. So I know the weight has come off, but actually, psychologically, we're still stuck in that bigger body and the life that we led. And unfortunately, with a big weight loss comes quite a bit of attention. And we're not trained in how to deal with that and how different that can be. And if you're not, or you are one of them people that's been in a bigger body, you spend a lot of your time hiding away from these situations because you don't want to be seen. So from a mental health perspective, people treat you very differently. People celebrate the success that you've lost weight, but they seem to just have a whole different understanding of who you are as a human being. And when that happens really slowly over time, because you're doing it through other means, I think your mind comes along with that journey a little bit more. When it happens this way, and it does happen quick, 6.5 stone for me was done in less than 13 months. It's a whole different change in life. And we're not considering that. And I think one of the biggest things that you do in that Sunday session, that for me is just as important as saying, so is strength training, so is this. We have an opportunity, and I think the private sector and the independents out there are absolutely the ones that can move quick enough on this, is to say, don't have to do 3 sessions in the gym a week. Come and do 1, but come to us a second time and do a service like what John's offering, where mentally we'll work together as a social group and we'll work through what we're dealing with. Because, again, it's one of them things that unless you go through it, you just don't understand, but you go from being an invisible person to a non-invisible person when the weight loss is that big, and that's quite a scary thing to get around as well.
So John, if we come back to you quickly, we always try and hide away from commercial side of things, but it is a big thing. Getting new members into the facility. We've got to look at this as an opportunity within the industry. So the scheme you're putting in place, how are you working with non-members at the moment to get those into the facility to use the scheme to then try and get new members?
So we're in the early stages. Obviously, we're communicating. We've discussed things today. We're taking stuff forward. I've been in contact with a lot of the local county council agencies that work within activity, and I've been discussing with them, reaching out to them and that kind of stuff. Obviously, we're going to up our social media platform and all of those things. We do our adverts, get them out. That's what we're going to... Word of mouth as well is a big thing. And it's quite amazing. There are a lot of people out there taking... I think it's way higher than 1.5 million, all right, to be fair. And the other thing that you need to be aware of, I got this the other week. My cleaner, big girl, she was taking them with... she'd never done physical activity in her life. She was one of those who hated it, doesn't like sport, always been big her whole life. Got diabetes, had to have surgery, and she's been given GLP-1s. Wasn't even told what they were, right? So she took them, unaware of the side effects, had the side effects, was ill, really ill. And then she said to me, "You're taking them, aren't you?" I went, "Yeah." And she went, "Well, how much are you paying for them?" Because knowing the price had just gone up, and I went, "Well, I'm paying that." She went, "I'll sell you mine for 100 quid. That's the next thing to happen. So all those people on the NHS that we don't do any behavioural change with, that we don't do anything, they ain't going to take their drugs. They're just going to sell them. Because invariably, again, there was an important thing that was said. I don't know whether people missed it. Those that are doing it privately are rich enough to do it. But the poor, those that are on low incomes, aren't rich enough to do it. So they're getting it through the NHS. So a lot of those people will just go, you know, if they don't engage with it properly and get the support they require, they'll just sell it. They're not bothered about losing the weight, to be fair, even though it's life-changing for them and important to do so.
So, with that, when you're trying to get non-users in, I suppose, Tanya, you could be a good one here. I know you've spoken about this before. language comes into it a lot as well, because we can't call it GLP-1 scheme, whatever you call it, because you're not going to get people come into it and show up at reception and say you're here for the GLP-1 meeting. It's not going to happen. So how do we adapt to that?
Language is definitely key. For anybody that's on any health referral program, whether it's cardiac, whether it's any kind of rehab, we have this really bad way in our industry of putting a bright pink T-shirt on them that says cardiac and says, hey, now go in the gym, and everyone's going to be like, oh, careful, don't go near them, they might have a heart attack. It's madness. And I think one of the things that we've got to do is, if you want these people to come through your door, your marketing campaign should be educational, not a standard, oh, are you on GLP-1? We can help you, great, come in. It needs to be centred around, you will start to feel weaker. You could potentially lose 10 years of biological age in your strength. Do you want to be in that situation in older age of living? You have to educate them in a different way to get them in. And the language that we need to use is really important. Drop fitness, like we've been saying it for ages. We have to come up with a safe space and a safe language that they understand and that they're comfortable with. And the marketing messages have to be to the right groups. We can't just put our standard marketing message out, send emails to our same newsletter people. That's just not going to work. So language, the marketing message are both really key and important. And unfortunately, in the same way that COVID did, pre-COVID, I haven't mentioned that for a while, there has to almost be a fear around what losing strength can do for you. Because my biggest concern is, if we don't get people to strength train now, with these millions of people that are on the medication, 5-10 years' time, we're just going to have a bigger NHS crisis. That it might not be obesity, but it'll probably be MSK, osteoporosis, of hip fractures, because they're really cheap for the NHS to deal with. So it's about the right support. Because I work in the industry, but I hate being in a gym. I am that person. And I think, what would it take to get me in that situation? And unfortunately, when you don't like being in the gym, sometimes it is a fear message of what that can do, as opposed to, we can help you. We have to highlight what losing that much strength can do for you in older age.
There's a reason that we're doing it on a Sunday, the counselling, yeah? Because that's our quietest time in the gym. You know, I'm not going to parade a load of people that have never been in the gym, that don't like being in the gym, through the main door of the gym, walk them all the way through up to my studio upstairs, where everybody sees it. Because getting them across the threshold in the first place, somebody that's engaging in a fitness thing, that is a nightmare anyway. So we are going to do it on a Sunday afternoon, because that's when it's quietest. That's when we have the least people in the gym. We've got another entrance. We will use that other entrance, and they won't go through the gym. You know, the whole point of having a coffee and just sitting and having a chat and being with like-minded people, that's all part of that. Yes, we will do exactly the things that you've just said there in our publications online, talk about it. You know, this is us, this is come and chat to us, and we'll talk through the things. These are the things that are going to affect you, you know, but this is what you need to do, and you can get that advice from us, and you'll get some support within the group support, which is fundamental, I think, to any success of somebody continuing their journey and educating as well. Because if they come off the drug and they haven't made any behavioural changes, they will just rebound exactly. They'll have lost that lean muscle mass. They potentially are going to have thinning of bones and density of bones. And then they're going to put the same amount of weight back on with less muscle and thinner bones. And like you say, hip replacement, isn't it? And the big problem we have in the UK is that the government and the NHS, they just see this massive figure for diabetes and such like medications, 9.5 billion just in the cost of diabetes medication, 12.5 billion in associated costs with diabetes, yet our industry only makes 6.5 billion, yeah? Yet we've got an illness that does 20 billion's worth of damage. And then this medication can drop the weight down, reducing the chance of somebody having diabetes in the first place. So they're looking at that. They're just looking at the straight cost. They're not looking at the rebound cost if we don't do this properly. And this is our opportunity as an industry to step in, provide that support that isn't going to be provided by the NHS, to be fair, because they haven't got, it's going to be 2-3 years, isn't it, as you said.
It's going to be a while. And I think, yeah, if we jump on, to Lauren, in terms of programming, in particular for me, you've worked across a few different referral schemes and different avenues. How can facilities adapt their programming to make sure we're in the right position?
Yeah, in terms of adapting programs, I'll come to that in just one second. I just wanted to add something. What I will say is I've been working with our local integrated care boards and primary care networks within the NHS. It's a lot of the time going and meeting the right people, having the right email address. In the NHS 10-year prevention plan, they have given the local providers autonomy to work with anyone really within the community, providing you can provide the right support. So if you, obviously I can't say this will happen, but if you knock on the door and you've got people that are qualified and you've got the right space, there's nothing to say that you can't then be eligible for funding that's going. What we are seeing, even where I'm working, is they're not prescribing it for 40+4 in every single practice across Oldham at the moment because they've not got enough wraparound support. Because the NHS don't want to replace everybody's hips, they're not prescribing it unless they've got a community provider or another gym provider next door that they can refer them on to. They need to work together because otherwise there'll be no behaviour change, the weight will come back on, so on and so forth. They don't want to do it, it's a waste of money. They need wraparound providers, but because they're so far away from kind of putting out a massive scheme to do it themselves, it's almost like you've got to go to them. That's what I've done in Oldham. I went to them. We've got a little bit of funding through me going to them saying we've got people trained, we can do this, let us help. But in terms of adapting programs like you've just said there, I think adapting is the key word. Look at what you've already got. Look at what you could already tweak and replicate in a very different way. We don't need to reinvent the wheel and do what you can with what you have. Because there's always something we can do, and something is really so much better than nothing. And the more that you kind of become a safe space or a hub for people that are taking this medication, you'll learn from them what they want, you'll learn from them what they'll respond to. But I do think each year that we go on, and each year the NHS decrease the criteria for the BMI, we're going to get more and more people. And I think it will become a point where the NHS needs all of the community providers, all of the independent gym providers to be providing wraparound support. So get yourself ready would be my advice. Get your staff trained. It doesn't have to be reinventing the wheel. It can be a group that's once a week. You can trial it, see how it goes. You can then reach out if you want to people within the NHS in your local area. You can reach out and say, look, this is what we can do. We can take X amount of referrals from you. They've got funding. There's money there as well, would be my biggest piece of advice.
Yeah, and I think it's a good one. I think we are very good at waiting for things to happen and thinking, there's money coming, we'll wait 3 years and someone's going to give me money and I'm going to use this in the right way. If we don't get ourselves ready and we don't use the 3 years now to put schemes into a place, and we get case studies ready that we can go forward with, we're going to struggle when it gets to that point. We need to get ahead of the game and we have to present them case studies back when the time comes.
I booked training and got all of our staff on that before we got any funding. I then turned around and said, we're trained, we can do that. I had to go to them actually multiple times and say, we're trained, we can do that, we're trained, we can do that. They've got, I think it's almost like a lack of capacity. They're so busy, just like we all are, that they almost don't have the time to be coming out and meeting with you. You have to break their door down, which doesn't sound very attractive. But if you get through to the right people, there's people out there with pots of money that they need community providers to do just this, but there's no one there to do it. So why can't you be that person? If the amount of people that are on it, that will continue to be on it, the number will grow. The need is going to be there. It's not going away. There's more drugs in the pipeline. There's more drugs going through testing at the moment that are going to help you increase muscle, lose fat, just by sitting at your desk all day. This isn't going anywhere. It's going to get bigger. So don't sit there and do nothing. Do what you can with what you've got.
Brilliant. And Tanya, from your strategic seat at eGym, how do you see the GLP-1 shift in the industry, and how do eGym become the essential sort of co-pilot for facilitating that?
Wow.
Teed you up nicely there,
that was a tee up. I can't remember your question, it was so long. GLP-1 is the thing that's going to change our industry in the biggest way over however many decades. Nothing will ever hit us as big as it has now. And I'm cautious sometimes when I do these panels that most of the time I'm just being asked to say how shit I feel on it, which I have, but I'm still taking it. So I think one of the really important things to say, you're right, it's not going away. These drugs are going to get better. They're going to get more refined. Let's continue to look at what the drugs don't do. And whilst I know there's a drug in development that claims it's going to build muscle mass, that blows my mind to think, but does it? What it's probably going to do is just reduce how much muscle mass will be lost. You will probably still lose muscle mass by taking these drugs because you're using a lot amount of weight in a very quick time. So the one thing, and it's massively important for me, and I've absolutely fucked it up by not strength training on this journey, is looking at why strength training is so important. Strength training in particular is so difficult for people that don't know what to do in a gym to do. They know how to get on a running machine and press smart start. They know how to go in and get on a bike. When it comes to weight training, it's the thing they need the most, and it's the hardest thing for us to teach. So one of the things that we do at eGym is obviously personalising people's programming and making it really easy, fun and motivating to do strength training by guiding them. It's effectively like playing Pac-Man for anyone that's seen eGym. Everyone's like, oh yeah, that's cool. Actually, what we're doing is controlling every single rep that you do in the right way to make sure that you complete it as effectively as you can. So we've taken strength training and we've effectively gamified it to make it really fun, simple and easy to do. What we have the ability to do with GLP-1, and it's currently in testing phase, and I'm not really supposed to talk about it. Is this recorded? Yeah,
Tell us
awesome.
anyway. I mean, you've got eGym socks in your lap. You're trying to plug it anyway. So
I love my eGym socks. Is we are currently in test phase in a university in New York. We have built a personalised prescribed GLP-1 program. Its design is to reduce the amount of muscle mass that you lose whilst not making you hit a max training strength. So we don't want people to come in and train super hard. We want to keep them at a lower level and really look at that mass, the muscle mass loss. So once that's out and that's peer reviewed and we set that out and we say, hey John, switch your machine off overnight and there you go, you've got it. It is as simple as someone coming into your facility, clicking on that GLP-1 program and letting our personalisation and our API just take over and just train them at that point. So again, we haven't reinvented strength training. We've just made it really fun and simple to do. And I think that's one of the biggest blockers to why people don't do it, especially if they don't particularly like being in the gym. And it is the most important thing that we need to take forward. Whether the drug gets better and better and better, it will never be able to do that one thing around muscle mass. Like, it can say it, but I don't believe it. Prove me wrong.
I think the other thing from yours, before I pass over to Lauren quickly, is that the data that you're going to bring from that, eGym suppliers like eGym, Speedflex over there, the data that they can bring is going to be really key to how we then address things going forward.
But you're there, sorry. For example, every time you touch our equipment, we are taking some sort of data from it. So what would be really cool in 2-3 years' time is to be able to say, John, at your site, you've put 4,000 people on a GLP-1 program, and actually we have increased their strength by 15% in the first 3 months of training. When you can kind of tangibly put that data to what you're doing, it does open you up to much more funding and opportunity, because from a tangible point of view, you're not just saying, our industry makes people feel better. Like, we all know that. We all know we make people feel better. But what we're in a position to be able to do now through data is prove that we make people better. And when we start proving that we make people better through intangible data, then we see ourselves as an essential service. And I think one of the things that I talk to specifically public leisure a lot around is, how do we be seen more as an essential service to government as a preventative healthcare tool versus being seen as the fitness industry? And I think whilst GLP-1s is probably right now, people can say it's an opportunity, it's a threat, the opportunity in you guys getting it right now means that when we are seen as an essential service, it's just going to be so much greater commercially and from a social value point of view for all of us.
What she said. That, and what I would say is the NHS, for the right reasons, they are very, very obsessed with data and case studies. So I'm in the process of trying to work with the spinal department at our local hospital. And it's a very multidisciplinary call that we have with the surgeons, with communities, with physios. And it is very much, right, when are you going to do the data? When are you going to do a small case study? When's that going to be ready? They're obsessed with figures. Ultimately, they need the data to be able to be giving people money. So we're in an early stage, and if you are in a place where you're going to do it off your back, if you're just going to do it at your gym, I know you're already in the process of working with eGym, which is great. But if you are going to do it, do try and record some data along the way, because it will ultimately help you get funding in the future. You might not want funding, but listen, if there's money out there to help people, why not go for that?
Okay, and we'll wrap it up and just, I just want to hear like a final thought from you all, but something that operators can take away with them, that the first thing they should do when they go back to the centres, following this, what would you go and put in place if it was you?
I think the thing that's come out is to realise that NHS trusts are different all over the country, yeah? While we've got an NHS that's obviously actively engaging with you up north, yeah? Suffolk is in the process of linking with Norfolk to become a combined trust. That's the top of their agenda. Fat loss drugs aren't. They'll give them out, but so I've got to go knocking on the door in a big way, and I've got to be the driving force. I've got to say what I'm offering, what I'm going to do, because they ain't going to come knock on my door. All they're going to do is hand out to the local authority gyms, because that's part and parcel of their standard practice. And if we as independents want any funding and help and support in that, I'm going to have to go knock on the door, and I'm going to have to be aggressive in my area, right? Definitely with Suffolk, because that's what I'm having to do, because there is no chance of them engaging with me. I'm the person that's got to engage with them.
Just off the back of that, and I'm sure that is true, obviously it is very discombobulated up and down the country, I don't disagree with that. What I've even found in Oldham is, even from the integrated care board to some of the PCNs to speaking to the spinal department at the hospital, they don't really talk to each other. They're separate entities. I'm dealing with 3 different businesses almost. I really do think, I did a talk at SIMSPA conference, and I got a contact from there who was at Salford Hospital, and then she put me in touch with the one at Oldham Hospital, and that's how I've got into the spinal department. It isn't reinventing the wheel, it's having them conversations, and hopefully there'll be a way in somewhere where you are.
Sorry, one of the things that came up in the conversations while knocking on the door was obviously nutritional advice and stuff like that, that they're not going to engage with you unless you've got somebody appropriately qualified, and that's not a PT that's done a nutrition course. It's got to be a proper nutritionist. But one of the things that we're looking at is where we're going to try and get funding is for them to fund that person to work with us, and find a nutritionist within the area, because they're not the easiest thing in the world to find that want to work in the fitness world. I had a nutritionist work. There was a member of our gym. She worked for one of the food for Sainsbury's. That was her job. So they paid her. So she had to be very careful about what she said to us and what she did. And that's our biggest thing at the moment, trying to get a nutritionist to help and work with us.
Perfect. And I'm going to move to Tanya. Tanya, can you avoid funding for me? Because I feel like we're covering funding
I
a lot.
wasn't going funding,
and,
it's fine.
Yeah,
I think
funding is tough, so let's look at it as a commercial opportunity elsewhere.
as a roundup for me, it's not going away. Educate your teams, but really focus on empathy, because training them in what the drug's doing to their body is great, but we need that holistic viewpoint as well. Once you've trained them, get the right marketing message out, not in your standard format. From a commercialisation point of view, you're not aiming this at the same people. So educate, market it right, people will come.
Yeah, aside from what they've said, the only other thing I would add is to look at your member journey, look at your induction process. One thing I found when doing some training with our team, I got the best instructor that I thought we had, and I got him to demonstrate what he does in his induction. And it was a bit like a whistle-stop tour around the gym, like, here's your treadmill, here's your fixed resistance machines, here's the weights. This is how you stretch, off you go. It wasn't bespoke or built around that person at all. So a lot of the work we've been doing is about making it client-led almost, what they want to get from that induction, what they need help with the most, what they need support with the most, and making it more around that behaviour change and tailoring it in a more holistic way, as opposed to just like bish, bash, bosh, off you go. You'll know this. The better your induction process is, the better your member journey is, the better your retention rates will be. So by doing this, even if it isn't just for GLP-1, it's still a really positive thing to do. And everything else I've said really, but something's always better than nothing. So even if you feel like you absolutely can't do anything, do have a review of where you're at and look at the one thing that you can do.